Hi, I'm Ryan Lambert, the writing consultant here at the Colorado School of Mines.
In this video, I shall discuss the art of analyzing evidence in our writing. Immediately after we present evidence, we must then analyze that evidence. Evidence can come in the form of quotes, paraphrases, tables, charts, statistics, formulas, and anything we're using to prove our point. As writers, we must use evidence to develop our argument. However, we should know that our readers are not inside our heads. We cannot expect our reader to look at evidence and make the same assumptions we do. Therefore, we need to carefully explain to our readers the connections we are making. To analyze evidence, we should answer the following questions after we present evidence. What does the evidence mean? Why is the evidence important? How does the evidence relate to my hypothesis, or to my thesis, argument, claim? Let us pretend that we are writing a paper for a class, and toward the end of that paper's introduction, let's pretend that we posit the following arguable thesis. Solar energy must be used to produce clean drinking water. Now that I have posited a thesis statement, I need to support that thesis statement in several body paragraphs. Each of these body paragraphs should contain evidence, and then we must analyze that evidence. Again, in this hypothetical paper, let's pretend that we have the following piece of evidence in one of our body paragraphs. According to the World Bank, quote, the recent financial viability of solar schemes is credited to the fall in the price of solar photovoltaic modules, which since 2009 have dropped 80%, making the life cycle cost of the solar power several times cheaper than diesel, end quote. The first step in analyzing that evidence is to ask, what does the evidence mean? Here I provide an example of what that might look like. Diesel is often expensive, so it is not an effective means to produce clean water. PV cells, on the other hand, are relatively inexpensive, and the cost to produce these cells has fallen significantly. What is more, these cells have long life cycles. Secondly, I need to ask, why is this evidence important? These benefits are significant because engineers should always consider costs when they design a system, and engineers should always veer toward a cheaper technology to save stakeholders' funds. One does not need to rely on overly expensive diesel, for which a short supply exists. Lastly, I need to write out my answer to the following question. How does the evidence relate to my claim? Therefore, because solar energy is cheap and efficient, stakeholders ought to make use of this technology, which will only work to save money and create clean drinking water. Here we have the evidence along with the analysis. Take a few moments to reread or pause the video so that you can take all of this information in. Finally, I would like to leave you with a few tips on writing analysis. First of all, our analysis should always be longer than the evidence we cite. Secondly, in order to avoid going off topic, we need to focus on what the evidence itself communicates and not bring up additional information. Lastly, we should know that we use evidence to build logic, what the ancients called logos, in order to validate our claim. Thank you.